Okay, for this piece, I found this photo on the internet and I thought it was really cool and wanted to do it in glass. So, and I'll put the pattern up on, and the photo up on my blog for you to have. So, what I've done is I want to use the white low fire, no fire piping paste. It's basically what it says. It's a paste, it's a very thick product. Keep it scraped down, as you can see that I've done here on the sides, because whatever dries, you're not able to reconstitute it. Okay. And then what I've done is take one of our piping bottles. This is the PIP kit 4, meaning it has 4 tips in it. And I've put it in one of the bottles. And so what I'm going to do is outline everything with the white. I've also got a paper towel here that I've dampened one corner that I will keep that tip clean from any debris. This is the white tip. It's the largest. And hopefully it'll come out. There it comes. All right, so I'm going to literally drag this along the glass and create an outline. So I'm scratching the glass, so to speak. You can't hear it, but it is in contact with the glass. So what I did was I taped the pattern or photo underneath it down. I just rolled the tape over. Let's see, we need to do I'm trying to do all the inside. This paste has been in here a while, and it is a little thick because I'm struggling to pipe it, to squeeze it. So what I'm going to do is put some more in. That way you can see how to do that. So we have these tools that have a tapered end, and it makes it nice because you can just put it right there in that neck of the bottle. You can also make sure you clean your tool off immediately because the paste is a low fire, no fire. So meaning no fire, it will stick to that and it's going to be hard to get off your tool. You'll have to soak it. You can add a couple of drops of the glass medium, okay, to your bottle. Okay, I'll put 2 drops in there and I'll give it a good shake to try to thin it down. But once it's hardened, there is no reconstituting it. Always test whenever you just thinned, or I'm trying to get some of that out till it starts flowing. There we go. Some of the newer. It just will flow much easier. So I'm turning this tip on its side so that I can see what's coming out. And I'm only going one direction. You don't want to scrape backwards because then it's going to scrape off what you're putting on. So you want to be able to see it come out of your piping tip. If you have a little spot that maybe you don't like, So I dampened the Sumi brush, and I can just, you want to make sure you wash the brushes thoroughly, but I can come in here and just straighten up. You can also wait till that dries, and you can scratch off an area if there's something you don't like, or do what I'm doing and just gently fix. So I'm going to turn it this way so I can pull down. Constantly wiping that tip off. I should have probably stopped and went towards that instead of coming backwards. So keep that in mind. I need to go back and do the eye on that other side. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll scratch off that residue. It's such a small area that it's hard to get in there. And then for these, I'm just going to make the dots. We're not going to outline. Okay. So we will let that dry, and then we're going to flood some color in, do some color blending, and I'll come back and show you that. Okay, so continuing with this project, I've picked out some colors here. I've got 162 laurel green, 362 laurel green, 360 key lime, 310 vermilion, 322 lemon peel, 351 cerulean, 352 deep cerulean, 333 rosewater pink, 334 tea rose, 337 bright violet, black G301, 302 white. Okay. The enamels are a powder, and I went ahead and mixed these up, but so like here is rosewater pink. It's a dry powder, okay? And then what you do is put it in a container. I've used these little half-ounce jars that we sell. Put it in there, and then you're going to add the GM300 glass medium and add it not quite 50-50. Just start out with 3 or 4 drops, depending on how much powder you put in there. Mix it up, and then continue to just add a drop at a time. And I will show you the consistency as we start doing this. Okay, so let's start with the green areas. We've got a lighter green and a darker green. We also need to have the class brush, the 455 class brush. You can either do the 2-aught or the 3-aught, either one. These are just a synthetic hair, which is a stiffer hair that allows it to able to push and pull the color. So I'm going to start out with 360 key lime. And what I want to do is show you with the tool, after you've mixed your liquid up, okay, then wipe off the excess, and then I'm going to dip straight down in it. I'm going to tilt it so that there is more of a puddle of color to dip into. When I dip in it and pull it out quickly, it should drip by the count of 3. And what I'm going to do is switch over to that side camera so you can see that. Okay. So I'm going to go in quickly. 1, 2, 3. So it dripped by 2, which is fine. Could be a little thin, but I think I'm okay. And then here is the 362 laurel. Same thing. I'm going to give it a stir since it's been a few minutes since I mixed all that up. Wipe off the excess, tilt it so I have more of a puddle down here to dip into. 1, 2, 3. And we're good on that one also. All right, so let's go back to the overhead camera. All right. So I'm going to start with my lighter color and work to the dark. So I'm going to just grab in, and let me come in a little bit closer. I'm going to kind of scoop it up. You can see that there's a huge amount. And I think what I'll do is do the side and overhead cameras so that you can see. Okay. Make sure there's not a glare on that. Okay. So I'm going to grab a generous amount on my brush. I'm going to start away from that piping, but then I'm going to push it towards the piping because you want to make sure that it gets right up next to it. You don't want a gap, because what happens if you get an air pocket there, it's going to basically open up. You're going to think the color has pulled away, and it hasn't. It's just opened up. that little pocket. I'll go ahead and put about 3/4 of that area with the lighter green. I'm going to wipe off the excess, pick up the darker green, kind of let it puddle. And I'm actually going to turn this the other direction to make it a little more easier for me. And I think you'll be able to see it better. So we're going to push that up next to the piping. So start in a larger area and go towards the smaller. Now, you may want to take the pattern or the colored sheet out from underneath, because you can just refer to it, because it may distort. And I'll do this one with it under there, and then I'm going to remove mine. Okay, so then you can either pat that color to blend it, or you can shimmy it back and forth to kind of give you a third color in there. Just kind of depends on what the look you want. Whoops. So I'm just rinse my brush and quickly lift that off. Grab a little bit more of that light color. So I rinse my brush with just water in it. I'm just kind of cleaning it off the piping there. Grab a little bit more of the dark. Okay, so you kind of get the idea with the side camera how much you're bending, or I'm just flooding the color in. I wanted you to see that. Okay, so then we're going to turn it back around, and I'm going to take it off of the pattern or photograph. And we'll just lay that to the side so that you can see. It's easier to see the color when it's not got that color underneath. All right, so we're going to do the same on this area. Scoop that up. And if it's easier, you can also put a darker color under you, something that show you more. Like if you don't like I've got it just sitting on a paper towel. Okay, so I'm going to just shimmy or pat. And once again, turn it to make it comfortable. So just keep playing back and forth between the colors until you get a nice transition from one to the other. You know, this is a little bit different green, but I think I'll just use the same green as opposed to mixing up another color. Okay. Try to work colors that are not side by side some other place. So let's go to the yellow and the red. So I'm going to use yellow and red in these areas here. I can't, well, I can do the lip, but I can't do it underneath the lip. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the, let's go with the nose. We're going to do 351 and 352. Again, give those colors a stir if it's been a little bit. I can tell you that one looks a little thick to me. 1, 2, no. Okay. So what I think I'm going to do is fill this. It's such a small area that I'm going to fill it in with the lighter, the cerulean, and then I will come back on top because it's very fine areas. Very small areas. And then I'll just pick up some of that 52 and just kind of do the same thing. You're just shimmying. And let me, sorry about that, zoom in a little bit. Okay. I should probably wait to do that. All right, we'll leave that alone. We also have the brow area up here. So always start in the largest area and then push or pull that color to the piping. So I'm just adding the deep cerulean on top of that. I wiped my brush off. Coming back with the cerulean. Now in this other area, it looks like there's more dark. Of course, this is just my interpretation. Okay, there's also a small area on the other side of the nose, and it's a little itty bitty. Okay, so you can see it doesn't take much color. All right, so this is 318 pumpkin. Glass medium. You can see how much I put in there. One, two, three, four. It's kind of like almost toothpaste. 1, 2, 3 more drops. When you have a very small amount, it's hard to do that drip test. 1, 2, 3. It's hard to get a true test. You just have to eventually go by feel if you're not mixing up a whole bunch of color. So up here on this area, I see orange and then transitioning over into red. Okay, once again, I'm going to turn it sideways so it's easier to get at. Start away from the piping and then push or pull towards it. Typically, you would stand straight up on the brush. I'm trying to tilt it so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to wipe the excess. I did not stir that. Even though I just mixed these up, it still has set for a while. Now, you could use the 411 and 416 that are leaded or cadmium based. Just remember, they're a brighter red and orange and yellow. Just remember that it's not food safe. It does have to be vented when you fire it if you're going to use those colors. So that might be a consideration. I'm going to wipe off the red and go back to the orange in my brush. Turn it the other direction. Wipe off, grab some of the red. All right, so you can kind of see it transitions from one to the other. All right, so there also is this area around the eye. Okay, so this one here. So with the orange, the pumpkin. Wipe off the orange. Grab the red. So just keep going back and forth. orange. Oops. Okay. These two areas are more red and like a burgundy, which I did not mix. But I do have a burnt sienna that has been here for a little while. It does have some liquid on it, so I'm going to reconstitute that. Because the more you keep mixing it, it starts to liquefy. Then you can add just a few drops. All right, so we're going to go with the red. So the bristles of the brush is not bending. We're flooding that color on, just letting it pool and puddle. Now I'm going to wipe off that excess, grab a little bit of that brown. And then shimmy and blend. I'm going to wipe off the excess. A little more of the red. Or I should say vermilion. Okay. And then I did not pipe a line down here that's behind like the eyelashes, so we're going to have to be extremely careful. You could put a line in there. So what I'm doing is rinsing, blotting. I'm trying to take it off of that piped line. Then I can go back in. Grab some of the brown. I grab some brown, and I'm just going to kind of shimmy that on top. You can wait till that dries a little bit and add the brown. It basically wait until the vermilion, the red, sets up long enough that you can do more of a painterly top on top of it. Okay. I want to do some of the black areas. I want to get some of those in and drying, not necessarily around the eye, but the nose. So this is the 301. Black. So let's just work on those solid areas to start with. Now, these are pretty tight or small areas. Another way you can get into those is to use a toothpick. And just let it drip off the toothpick. If that's easier for you. All right, then we've got the inside of the mouth here. I'm going to just do the eye itself. I'm not going to do the lash area. Okay, so I need that green over here. But I'm going to go ahead and do the line of black. Okay, because we've got some red with some black, so I'm going to go ahead and put that red over there. I'm just going to go with the vermilion. Okay. All right, so now we need to go to an area that's not going to be affected by something we've already done. Which there's not a whole bunch there. Occasionally you may need to pick up your piece and make sure you can't see through it to make sure it's solid, or turn it in a different direction. Look at it, because you may think you're up next to the piping and you may not be at all. Okay, so everything's pretty wet. I'm going to let some of this dry. Let's see, now I can go ahead and do that black. So we want to kind of create the lashes. So the red has dried a little bit that we put on there. I'm going to turn this, and it's because you need to be able to pull. May need to wait just a little bit. Oh, I dropped a thing of water on that. Not good. Okay, so some of this even comes off the edge. Let's look at it, see. This needs to be more solid black in here. I have to wait and let that dry a little bit, because otherwise it just starts bleeding back into what's there. I'm going to go back in here and add a little bit of the red. Although there's not very much of it showing, it's more of the black. Okay. Need to put that green back in the eye, the other eye. That was 360 I used on the other one, which could be a little light. But I'm going with it. You can add some of the 362 to it. All right, I'm going to add the red on the top of this, and then I'm going to let that dry a little bit before we add the black onto it. While it's drying, we can come down here with the yellow. And I'm going to use yellow and orange. It could be a little bit of a burnt sienna color, but I'm going to use the 322. And I see a little tiny speck of green that I dropped. I am going to put a piece of colored glass under here. It's going to be easier for you to see the tight lines anyway. Okay, and easier for me to kind of gauge where I want the orange, the pumpkin. Also, we may want to put some red in there. I'll just have to see as I add it. I'm going to grab some of the vermilion. Just keep adding your colors and blending them. You can make it as dramatic or subtle as you want. Everybody has their own style. I'm going to grab a little bit of the red. Wiped my brush off. A little bit of the orange. Pumpkin. Oh, I gotta go back to that black. So flood in the large areas first. And then pull up. Believe it or not, that red maybe still, it's going to kind of diffuse into it a little bit. And I'll come back and add some more definition. A little bit. I am going to touch some of this up that had some red. And kind of put a little bit of a second coat coming out on those ones. Just to make sure they stay strong black. There is a tiny, tiny little bit of black in here. I think I have a gap. Yeah. So I need to get black. In that area. The rest of this around here is like that yellow, browns, and reds. It's kind of a dirty yellow almost. I may not make it quite that dirty. So I am going to fill a portion of it with the yellow. And then I will come back on top of that. I'm going to use a toothpick. Those areas are really tiny. All right, so then let's take a little bit of the red up in here. A little bit of brown. Grab just a smidge of the red. Grab some of the brown. Go back to some yellow. A little bit of brown in here. So once you get it on there, then rinse your brush or wipe it out. And then you can kind of blend what you have there. Okay, then I'm going to go down here and do this one. I'm going to take a little bit of orange. Add a little touch of red. A little bit of brown. Wiped off my brush. And I'll just blend what's there. Okay, that I went down to the glass, so I need to add some yellow. Okay. I'm going to add the white. Super thick. Add a couple more drops. I'm going to put this on white glass, but you could have left this area just the glass. But I'm going to go ahead and fill it in. Even though there's piping on those highlights, I'm going to add a touch of the white. Okay, we've got this yellow and brown tones. I wiped off the excess yellow, touched in the brown. I'm going to wipe off my brush. And we can go back and touch up the black when some of that dries. So we have the pink areas that are left. I am going to let this dry though, just so that I don't merge some of those. And then I also am going to look at the black over here and try to fine tune that, straighten it. Is still a little damp. Okay, we're going to let that dry, and then we'll come back and do those pinks later and touch up anything that we need to. All right, so we're going to do some tea rose, and we're going to do some purple. It's not going to be exact colors of that, but we'll get close to it. All right, so the tea rose. Grab the 37 bright violet. Wipe off my brush. Okay. And then we'll do the pink, two different pinks. Rose water being the lightest. Tea rose that we had is a brighter and darker, and that's what we're going to use on that other area. We could add a little of the red, the vermilion. I'm going to start on the lower area because that top one's wet. And then go to the tea rose. Going to keep turning it so that I can push that color next to the piping. Then I'm going to use the toothpick to get it down into that little crevice. Okay. All right, so then we've got the lighter towards the front here. And grab the tea rose. I know this is hard to see probably because they're very close when they're wet. Not bad. I do need two little highlights on this with white. I'm going to use the toothpick. Let me back this off so you can. Okay, after it's completely dried, then I will come back and touch up any black and the white lines that I need to. Okay, so there's one section up here of that pink and purple left to do. So I've got the tea rose, and then I'm using the bright violet like I did over here. This is such a tiny area. Excuse me. All right, so now we need to clean up. So I've got some areas of the black. I don't know if you can see it on camera. There's holes like right there. So it needs more black. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to the 3600 liner brush because I can get finer lines with it. Although it's really pretty hard to get detail with the enamels because they're so thick. Okay. If you can take your brush that you were using for flooding and you can come back and just gently try to take any color that's off of a line, you can do it that way. I think for this one, what I'm going to do is use the CC 102 white. The piping will come back through a little bit, but not completely. It's going to take on whatever color you have over it. So I'm just going to add sometimes the white doesn't show up until it dries. You wouldn't want to pipe back over it because then it could roll off of where you're going to put it and onto an area you don't want it. You can kind of see how it's showing up as that's drying. Okay, so just take a Q-tip with these pointy ends, and anything that went over onto the glass, you can just scoot right off. Now I added that little bit of black on top of there. I'm going to just finger sand that level so that it's not raised. And you can take your toothpick or any kind of a tool and shape that. Be sure and put it down on a dark surface to make sure you've got all of the residue off. Okay. The only other thing is if you want to add more red, and I say the red one because um, red is harder to get, especially in keep it food safe. So I'm going to go to the 112 candy apple red, which is a color concentrate, which is a non-enamel, so it has no glass in it. You will have to sift over any area that you use a non-enamel to make it shiny. I am going to take the small sumi brush, put a little bit of water in it, drag it off, kind of just blot, and then just barely tip into it. And let's come in a little bit closer. And then I'm just going to put it on here and get it done and get off of there, because once you add that, it starts to loosen up the enamel and it's going to lift up. Okay. So I'll take a picture of this before I fire it, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like.